Grab some coffee, a Mountain Dew, maybe both. A storm is brewing. The Brainstorm. Welcome to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike.
Hey, welcome to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. I'm excited about today's show for a number of reasons. One, I got a really good friend of mine on the show with me as a guest on our show that I've known for quite some time. He is the founder and former CEO of The Body Shop and current State House Representative of District 69, right. Chris Wooten. Chris, I appreciate you joining me.
Matt, thank you for having me, man. I'm excited. You know, it's good for to be on somebody else's show for a change. You know, We've got our show on Wednesday mornings at 9, The Rep with Micah Caskey and I, and just talking about some transparency in government and that kind of stuff. But it's good to let somebody else take the reins and me just fall in and answer some questions.
You're getting interviewed. Chris, I'm sure, you know, as being a State House rep, you've been interviewed many times, so it's not, that part is nothing new to you, obviously.
Right. You know, and I like for folks when they come on, you know, when talking about coming on our show or talking to us, I'll give them some topics, and you know, folks say, well, tell me what the questions are and that kind of thing. And so now I've gotten to where, you know, I'm like, I don't really want to know what the questions are. I like to be,
let's just go.
I just like to go and be, especially when talking to somebody like you. So, you know, you've known for so long, it's so easy to just carry on a conversation. And that's the good part about it. And I think that's what we need, you know, we'll get into that more too, but I think it's what we need in office is folks that just want to be real.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're exactly right. That's funny that you say that, because transparency is, if it happens, it's question at best.
Yeah, at best.
Right, at best.
Right.
It probably doesn't happen, but if it does happen, it's at least questions, because nobody believes that it's fully transparent. It's always something underlying.
Always a conspiracy somewhere.
Right,
yeah.
Always something underlying reason why doing something. But what I want to do, Chris, and you might have done this on your show, you probably have, but I want to go back to the earlier days of Chris Wooten. So on my show, you know, we're a show of business building, and what people don't know about you right now, or what some people might not know, being a State House, a representative, state of South Carolina representative for District 69, is that you didn't start there. You're not a politician of old, right?
Yeah.
And so let's go back to some of those earlier days. Help our listeners and our viewers get a good understanding of some of the early days of Chris Wooten.
Well, Matt, as you know, I was what kind of set me up for I'll tell you, go way back. What set me up for the whole thing was my mom and dad were divorced, and I was raised by my grandmother. So another generation out, and that gave me the principles and the morals that I lived with every day. Then,
you know, it's funny that you, and I didn't mean to interrupt. It's funny as you say that, because when you think about that generation, right, like our grandparents' generation, and even the generation prior to that, you know, the things that come to mind is work ethic, handshakes, dependability,
right?
Your word is your bond, right? And just everything that we
and actually communicating with someone other than over a text,
right? Because you didn't
not
have
texting someone.
You didn't have electronic devices to communicate on. It's like everything that's good in the world seems like those generations were the epitome of that.
And that's what I said qualities. Actually when my grandmother passed away. I said, you know, that I obviously will miss her and miss that, but I'm gonna that generation. She and her brothers or uncles, my uncles that helped raise me too, and in that realm, I just said I'm gonna miss this generation because those were really good people.
People.
Yeah. So, but anyway, left Greer, South Carolina. I was up in Greer and went in the Marine Corps. You know, so everything my grandmother had taught me got me to the Marine Corps, and everything. Then I base my life now pretty much. There's not a day goes by that not something that I learned in the Marine Corps takes place.
Okay.
You know, discipline, integrity, servanthood, courage, all the things that are taught there. And that's what a business is made of.
Yeah.
You know.
So you were in the Marine Corps how long?
Just 4 years. I did a 4-year tour.
4-year stint. Yeah.
Traveled around with Presidents Reagan and Bush for a bit, which was good. Came home, joined the South Carolina Highway Patrol. You know, I was a military police officer, and then so I went. When I got home, I said it'd be a good fit, and became a state trooper for about 7 years, and that's what got me to the Columbia area, Lexington, Irmo area.
Okay, so that's what brought you here.
Yep, and then ever since I was 19, 20 years old. I had helped people in the gym. I had, as I was in the Marines, I was a physical fitness coordinator. I was a platoon coordinator, the unit coordinator, and just continued to build and get certifications and do the things. So as that was my passion. So I was like, man, I'm a jump out on my own. I took a leap of faith. I prayed and cried for a couple hours, and God
had to be stressful.
God said, let's do it. Yeah.
I mean, you're leaving a job that is not going anywhere.
Right.
You're not going to get laid off, if you will. There's not going to be no financial crisis, right? I mean,
and that was the huge step. Had just had a son, but it was a total leap of faith, and we can get into that story a little bit. I don't know how long we got before the first break, but to do this business, I had the passion, I had the drive, I had trained some people part-time in the gym, as a personal trainer. And I said, I really want to do this thing. So I got down on my knees and I cried and I prayed. I'm not lying, I cried and I prayed, God, I just want this and this. And I locked myself in my room for a couple hours. And I came out and I said, I'm going to do it. And
so you decided to leave.
I figured up what I needed to pay the bills for my son and my wife at the time. I said, I need 40 workouts, 40 30-minute, half-hour workouts just to pay the bills. Here's the budget. I got to get that. First week, I went out on a Thursday. I started shaking hands at the Gold's Gym here in town when it first opened. I went in. I started shaking hands with people, writing my name on it, but didn't have business cards, didn't have any. Write my name, giving to people. I'll give you a free workout. I'll give it. At the end of the first week, 7 days went by. I didn't look at my book, didn't figure it out. At the end of the first week, I totaled up all my workouts. It was exactly 40.
Dude, that's awesome.
And because I had said, God, just give me the resources I need to provide for my family.
Right.
And it was exactly 40. And then it was never less than that. And it just blossomed, and I ended up hiring people and ended up with, we'll get into that, but ended up with 50 employees, and it was insane. Just if you just tell God, I'll give it back to you, dude, he'll bless you like crazy.
I remember meeting you at Gold's Gym, and you were hustling and trying to build your book of business and get your own clients. And it was cool because I didn't realize that you had just left. Of course, how long were you at Gold's? How long did you do that at Gold's Gym?
I was at Gold's. It took me about a year to build up a book before I went out. Went out and started my own gym. Dumped some money.
So you really, when I met you, you really just left the highway patrol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's 20 years ago.
Yeah. And so you started your own business.
Yeah.
Really kind of contract business, if you will, right? Because at that time it was just you.
It was, just me, and folks hired me they took me in to motivate them, train them, lose some weight, gain some weight, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And then I took that next step of faith. I said, hey, I'm not going to rely on somebody else's equipment and so just pay them rent. I want to do something on my own. So, Matt, I didn't do it the right way. I learned a lot. I've passed on some of that stuff. You were young.
I mean, you're a brand new business owner. You probably
learned
I
had about $15,000 saved up to my name, and I had 2 0% credit cards. That was back in the 0% days, introductory rate cards.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I borrowed $15,000 on each of those cards. And I pay, and every time, this is a terrible story, but it's worked. Every time that 6-month introductory period was up, I'd pay $50 and I'd bounce it to another one. I never paid interest on any of those cards till I paid off all the equipment.
Yeah, that was back. That was actually back when you could do that.
2001 or 2.
Yeah,
back to 8. But that was where I got a business loan, and I just knew I had to hustle because I knew I had to pay that every month.
Right.
I just kept booming it, man. But anyway, I learned a lot in those days, and it was a great ride. You know, all the times I saw a quote the other day. It was Winnie the Pooh actually. Looking at with my daughter, it said, "All along we thought we were just having fun, but we didn't know we were making memories."
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, I had them all.
Those memories turn into stories, and those stories actually turn into wisdom for other business owners who's listening to our show. You're listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. I have a great guest on our show, Chris Wooten. He's actually a state house representative for District 69, and we're talking to him about that. We're also going to talk to him about being the founder and former CEO of The Body Shop, which is, Chris, what you and I were just talking about. So you went out, you left the highway patrol after the Marine Corps, and you went out and you knew the exact number of clients you had to get, and you went out and you hustled in a different somebody else's gym.
Yeah.
So then I remember coming out, and I don't know, a while later from when I first met you, and I remember working. I remember going to play golf at one of the golf courses around here, and and seeing the body shop sign there. They had some offices over on the side.
It was actually a cart shed.
Yeah,
it was the old cart shed. Yeah,
and so you must have knew someone there.
I trained the owner of Golden Hills, and she had 1,000 extra feet. It was 1,000 square feet, 900 and some odd square feet.
And so you
in a
rented
cart
that
shed.
from
And I said, I want to rent that space, put some equipment in it. It didn't have running water. We had had to walk across the walkway to get to the bathrooms in the clubhouse. Every morning I had to get there and fill up the water coolers and ice because we didn't have any running water. So that was the step. I said,
I didn't realize that was the old cart shed.
Yeah, it was a cart shed. So
you were talking about starting a business at the infancy stages.
Yeah,
go rent a cart shed from a golf course.
That's right. It was just a square.
And so
room.
that's when you borrowed the money to buy equipment. That's where the equipment went.
Right. So all the equipment went into that little cart shed, and I bought 4 or 5 pieces of cardio equipment. Bought a few, bought some dumbbells, and just kept adding to it.
Yeah.
So
but your premise of workouts and stuff was kind of and I'm not up on all of that stuff. I've worked out with you many times, right? You trained me a number of times. You're probably looking at me going, I need to train you some more. but you trained me many times. But it seems like that your theory, your premise was kind of that CrossFit style premise way before CrossFit, quote unquote, was ever even thought of.
That
right?
just shows you the marketing side of it. When somebody's got the money to market a name or a brand, it just got high because it's just functional training. It's body weight training, functional training, some Olympic lifting too. CrossFit does some of that, but it's not new stuff. This is stuff that's been going on for 50, 60 years. It's just the fact of I was laughed at originally because I did 30-minute workout sessions, and everybody that had a personal trainer did an hour. Yeah. But I continued to watch people, they'd come into Gold and they'd buy an hour. They'd pay somebody $50 an hour to watch them walk on the treadmill for 10 or 15 minutes, and then warm them up and then come down. And at the end of the day, they're really only working out 30 minutes. Right. And so I'm like, I can charge somebody $50 for that hour, or I can charge somebody $35 for a half hour, make more money, have more people in there. And with my attention deficit going around, it's better for me to have somebody every 30 minutes. Anyway.
Somebody new all the time.
And there's not a lot of stand around time. You get in and get out, and people don't pay you to walk on a treadmill. So
no, I mean, you should go get here early, warm up, then come down and let's
work out.
Cool. Yeah, no, I like it. I mean, because we both know this, right? Other than the technical pieces, it's a lot of it's accountability, right?
Yeah, that's the largest part of that business is accountability. And folks could see that when and it goes in every business. If you didn't show up, I was calling you.
Right.
If you, my job was not only to help you get results, my job was to hold you accountable.
That's right.
And knowing you have an appointment, knowing that you got somebody there waiting on you, that drives you a little more.
It does. It absolutely does.
And then the recession hit.
Yeah.
2007, 2008,
07.
And so that some people started saying, well, I can't really afford, because I was a luxury, right?
Right.
Not me personally, but my job was a luxury.
No, exactly.
So I said, well, if you can't afford it, could you pay half? And I got, Matt, I got this guy over here, Mike, that wants to work out too. Maybe y'all have similar goals. Why don't y'all work out together? So y'all split the session.
Yeah.
And I found out I could train 2 people as well, or 3 people just as well as I could train one at the same time.
You tell them all to do the same thing.
And then you splitting the session price.
Right.
So then that developed our small group training, which we became known for.
Yeah.
Great small group, functional boot camp style.
Which is what I
training.
participated in a lot. Because I participated in the goals a little bit, and then I started doing the small group session.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so with that, the other piece of that, Matt, and going back to the initial start, when I was on my knees crying and praying to God that, hey, this is a huge step, just help me. I made a promise, and I can promise you something, and you probably gonna get it because you've been a friend a while. But when you promise God something, you talk about accountable.
Yeah, I know.
And it's not making a deal, but I just said, God, I promise that I will give you all the glory, and I'll continue to pour back into this business what you've shown me. So I started doing small group workouts with Bible studies,
which is what I participated in as well. Right. So absolutely, I love that.
So it was bring men in. We'd have 5, 6 a.m. We'd have 10, 12, sometimes 20 people, 20 guys would show up, and we would do a 30-minute workout or so and do a 15, 20-minute Devo every week or once, just to hold, and at the first of the week to try to hold folks accountable through the week. So that continued to just morph too, because it just poured into it. So
my problem
really
when I came to those 5:30 a.m. workouts is I didn't really get to work until like 10, because when I left, I had to go home and take a nap. I took a shower and took a nap. Then I wouldn't get to work till 10.
I got to the gym this morning, but I didn't get to work till 10.
It wore my butt out twice a week. So it was good. So you're building this business, and so you moved from just being really kind of just a personal trainer that was hustling to try and get clients, over to taking a real leap of faith and borrowing money on credit cards and other things of that nature, and renting a former cart shed from a local golf course and getting a gym started. How long were you there?
I was at Golden Hills for 5 years. So
wow, I had no idea it was that long.
Yeah, well, we had that 1,000 square feet, and within in a year, we were actually. I had hired, when I moved to that spot, I had hired a couple of folks because my workload became that I needed to hire somebody, and then so we continued to grow, and we were just crammed. We were stepping on top of each other. Well, between the old cart shed and the new cart shed, there was a square, just an open space. So I told the owner of the country club, I said, I'll pay all the upfitting if you let me build an addition here. So now if you'll see it, there's 2 buildings. We built that so we would have 2,000 square feet. So for 2 years and 1,000 square feet, 2.5 more years in that, and then the current location at Top Spin Racket and Swim Club, there was a building there that was about 5,000 square feet in the middle of the racket and swim portion. Yeah, that I went over and I said, I want to buy something, and instead of renting it, I want to buy something. So I went to the folks that owned it, and then they were willing to sell it, and I bought a little square in the middle of this racket and swim club. So
for the people that doesn't know, I mean, we're talking about a facility that had tennis courts, probably about, what would you say, about 180 degrees around?
Yeah, there's 16 tennis courts, a junior Olympic pool,
junior Olympic swimming pool,
10 acres total.
It's a really nice complex. So what did you buy out
there
of
was
that?
Just a little parcel that was their old pro shop,
right? Yeah,
or their pro shop that I said, this would be perfect for the gym. So I bought that little parcel. Okay, and then we continued to grow and just continued to be blessed, and it was insane till I had been there about 4 years. Okay, and I went to there was a field across the walk across.
A lot of people parked there when it would get really busy.
So the field was owned by them, but nothing was there. And I went over the owners of the Racket and Swim Club. I said, we were there for 2 years. I'm sorry. I said I went to them and wanted to buy that field. 2 reasons. One is because I wanted to use that field for our boot camp training. Right. Because we had a lot of outdoor training. We had, on Saturday mornings, we'd have 50 or 60 people show up. Pay $5 a head.
I came to a number of those.
It was amazing. And we did a ton of youth training, youth athletic training. So I wanted to buy that field. So I bought the field. And the second part of that was I coached Little League football during the time I was coaching high school football too. Yeah. And I got tired of driving all the way to Ballpark Road. Yeah. So I bought that field, and I built a football field.
Yeah, that's right.
But I was on the tractor. I was on the bulldozer myself, and I laid the sod. Yeah. And I put it was one of those things that we built ourselves. It was really cool to watch. So we bought the field. And then 3 years later, I was looking, and I'm like, we got that field. I need a bigger gym. We want to build something bigger, and it's a big warehouse. Mm-hmm. So I went to the folks that own the Racket and Swim Club, and I said, we have a cross easement for parking. Just wanted to clear it with you guys. I'm looking at building a building there and to make a bigger gym. And he said, Chris, to tell you the truth, we're thinking about selling the club. 6 weeks later, I was at the closing table. I bought the club.
You bought the whole club?
Yeah. So
swimming pool.
I'm like the Mark Cuban of the tennis club because I don't play tennis and I don't swim, but I own the team. So it was awesome. Took another huge leap of faith, and so now it's Body Shop Athletics is the 10-acre fitness facility with
tennis courts,
pools now, and
this big old building, right? How big was that building?
So that building's 10,000 square feet. Okay. Just a big warehouse, and the dream kind of behind that was for our youth ministry and and we'll get into the sale of the business, but the guy that I sold the business to had been with me. Corey Warner had been with me. I started training him when he was 12.
Yeah.
He went off all through high school and played college ball. Every year he'd come back and work for me. And but he was my general manager for about 6 years, and he was huge in the baseball world.
Yeah.
And he wanted to use that youth ministry that we had put together for that. And so
it just evolved.
It just blossomed.
It just evolved. I mean, the story of just watching you go from hustling and trying to build a business coming out of the highway patrol to renting a cart shed and building onto a golf course's cart shed that they still have, right? And then watching you buy and just kind of blossom into the whole entire complex over there and really take hold and had a lot of influence in our community. Like that facility, because all of the CrossFit play, all this stuff didn't exist. Like we have a lot of gyms in this community now.
It was a whole different world there, yeah.
Right, and so during that period of time you just really had a lot of influence. You're listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike, and we're excited about this show. We've been looking forward to having Chris Wooten. He is the founder and former CEO of The Body Shop. But he's a current state House of Representative for House District 69, which is just really right up the road from where we are right now and where his business is in that district. So, Chris, man, this is exciting. So you built this business up. You went from one person, right, to a bunch of borrowed money on a credit card to buy some equipment. Right. You move that equipment all around to other facilities. Same equipment.
You take care of stuff.
That's right. And then you just got a bunch of clients to buy into you and buy into what you're trying to do. And really, I think it was because, in my opinion, this is outside of perspective, it's just because you were doing the things you were doing with authenticity, right? You were very authentic and real and raw with what you were doing, and people buy into that, don't you think?
I do, and to that point, I still say to this day that when I'm asked, the new owner Corey, when he says something about should I buy this piece of equipment or should he ask about, I have to constantly remind them that Corey, people don't come see us because of the brand new treadmill with the TV and the elevation changes back and forth. People don't come see us because of the new style of bench press. People come see us because of us.
Right.
This is the personality you put behind the business and the passion that you do it with. Because people can read that. I've had trainers, no doubt, have trainers that come in gloom and doom, and they don't last very long, nor do their clients. But people come in with passion, and they've got people like literally beating down their doors to actually to be part of them, So it's neat to see that because there's so many. You mentioned the gym portion.
Yeah,
there's within a half a mile of our gym now. There's 5 other gyms, boot camp fitness gyms, that
they weren't there then,
right? So. But people keep saying, I didn't want to be cocky with it, but people would say, well, what do you think about your new competition? I'm like, well, it's not competition if you're not playing the same game.
Right. That's right.
And so my spin on that was, we may be in the same ballpark,
right? But
we're putting, our team is what matters. It's the team, just like you here. You've put together an incredible team, and I've watched your business start and blossom.
Yeah, our business was growing around at the same time yours was, right?
Yeah.
We were really trying to hustle at the same time. Yeah. There's no doubt.
And Mike's son he was part of that, playing on that football field out there when we built it.
Yeah, and now he works here.
Yeah. That's Bailey. It was really cool.
Yeah, no, he works here now. So I've been over there many times watching him play.
Yeah.
With your son.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually traveled on some travel football to watch both of them play.
It was fun. It was good days.
It was fun days. So where did the whole selling of the business? I mean, were you starting to wear it down? Were you getting tired, or was it an opportunity that just presented itself?
Yeah, it was. So 20 years, of actually.
Is that how long it was?
It was 19 years.
Okay.
Of getting up at 4 a.m. Literally every day. I can say at this point, I never wanted to jinx it before, but I can say this time I didn't make my I didn't open the doors at 5 a.m. 2 days in 19 years. I mean, from a sick standpoint, I was sick 2 days that I didn't make a door. Other than that, I wasn't late. I opened the doors at 4:45. Monday through Friday, and I worked 12 hours a day. Monday through Friday
for 19 years.
For 19 years, and so it got to a point where, having other people work for me, I could take middle of the day off. I could take sometimes off. You know how that works, but at the end of the day, I was the first one there, last one to leave, and last one to get paid. You know how and that's the way it works.
How early business ownership
was. But along in that process, I mentioned Corey Warner, who owns the body shop now. Corey was he was a fireball when he started, and he told me when he was in high school, I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna own this place one day. And
that's awesome.
But he would always come. He worked for me every summer, and then he'd go off to college and come back and work for me during break, at Christmas break. He would come home, he'd work, he'd train. So he went off to college, and in his spare time in college, he started doing personal training at a gym in Toccoa Falls, and so he could get more training experience. He came back and went to work for me. Made it, long story short, he just kind of took over the managing of the gym, and so I could start. I could feel a little more comfortable in taking a day off here.
Right.
And then that lasted about 5 or 6 years, and Corey.
Did you go to him, or did he come?
No,
to you?
he came to me and said, we've got this baseball thing exploding. We've got the gym portion going. He said, have you thought about thought any more about selling the gym? And I was like, or what's your plan? I was like, well, let's talk about it. So we sat down, and it was it literally took us about a year to get all, but we weren't in a hurry, but it took us about a year to get it all laid out to where it would work, because there's so many different pieces. There was a tennis piece, a pool piece, a baseball piece, a gym piece, and so
real estate.
So I said, I'll rent you the property, I'll lease you the property, and I'll sell you the business, and we'll do it where you can afford to do it, then so I hung on to the property just because that's kind of my retirement.
Right.
And then when it's all said and done, if Corey wants to buy the property, then he can do that too.
Yeah.
But that's just part of the business piece. But it worked out. It just kind of slowly phased into us getting it all closed down, and that's a long process. Somebody that's wanting to sell a business.
Yeah, and all businesses are built to sell. So last week we had Michael Branding on the show, and
I used to train Michael 20 years ago. So when Avtech was, I listened to some of that show. But when Avtech was, that was 20 years ago.
Avtech,
look what they've done.
They did well. They sold out to Motorola.
They did better than me. I'll let you in on that.
Michael's a good dude, man. He's really, really good.
He's solid.
Guy. He was actually in here earlier today talking to me about a couple things, but yeah, Michael's a good guy. So, a lot of people build a business to sell or to exit in some way, somehow. Right. And so you're going to exit.
One way or the other.
One way or the other. You're going to go die, get too old to do it. I mean, sooner or later, you're going to exit in your business.
And
so
for me,
you should set it up to exit in some way.
Yeah, for me, initially, I didn't have, didn't think about that, didn't have that in mind.
No one
initially.
does. Very few, I don't want to say no one, very few people build a business already knowing, hey, I'm going to start this business and then I'm going to exit.
Right.
Very few.
But for me to do it from the personal side, Corey, it would have to be somebody that everyone knew.
Right.
Like, Jim Smith from Tuscaloosa couldn't come in and buy my business because nobody knows him. There's no personal touch. He would change everything. Corey knew all the people there.
It was integrated into the culture.
He had been there, and so it was just kind of like just easing in and easing out. And so I still worked there.
That was my next question. Your transition. What was that like?
I told him I'll work for you for a year afterwards to make sure you can make your own decisions. I'll advise you on what I would do, and then you decide to do one way or the other. And he's listened to some and hadn't listened to others.
Right.
And, he's learned some stuff the hard way, and then he didn't have to learn some stuff.
Right.
That was already from an experience standpoint. So, so I worked for him for about a year and just kind of eased out. And I still got, I got a handful of folks that have been with me. From day one, from the start.
Because you're still going to work out, so why not have somebody work out with you?
Yeah, I still train a couple of people just because it's still fun. I still love doing that. To tell you the truth, if I just had to show up and train people and go home, I'd probably do that a little more.
Yeah.
But the 20 years of business, when you get I mean, I don't know how many people you have working for you now. I know there's a lot, but I know at one point I had 54 employees.
Yeah,
and that's and most of them are, well, 90% of them are under 30.
Yeah,
and
that's
and probably 60 to 70% are under 25.
Yeah,
because there were some lifeguards and tennis pros and people teaching camps, and so. That's tough.
Yeah, that's tough.
The older you get, the tougher that gets.
Yes, it is. 'Cause
then you just. But there was a moment. Where I was sitting in a. We were sitting out every first Friday of every month, had a big staff meeting for everybody, and I was sitting there, probably second or third staff meeting. I looked around, I saw all these people, and I was like, when did I become the dude in charge? When did I move from that guy over there just showing up for work, and if I get there 5 minutes early, I'm good, to I got to be there to open the doors. And now all these people rely on me.
They depend on you.
Yeah. So I'm like, dang, when did I grow up?
Yeah, I know it.
That's a tough spot.
As a business owner, that's what a lot of folks that are not an owner doesn't realize the weight that comes with that.
Yeah.
Right. When on those moments, like you just explained, a business owner looks out there and what he sees, he doesn't see a bunch of employees. What he sees is a bunch of people that depend on him.
Right.
They depend on him. They depend on the decisions that he makes.
And every
decision
their kids' livelihood.
Yeah,
they've got
their
young
whole
children.
families.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Not to mention whoever their customers are. Like now their customers depend on them for their products or service.
Right.
I mean, it all rolls downhill. There's a lot of weight. And when you build a business that hopefully business owners are really cautious about and really understand and wrap their arms around it, because you're influencing a lot of people, your customer base, your clients, your employees, their families. I mean, there's a lot of significant weight that goes into that.
And for me, it was a personal thing of I've got more skin in the game, not just me and at home and my kids and the things that I did, but I took it personal that I wanted to make sure that all my people were taken care of.
Yeah.
I say all my people, all of our employees,
right,
and their families.
Yeah, all the people
weren't worried that they were going to get a paycheck the next day. And there were times that I didn't take a paycheck,
right,
to make sure they had a paycheck.
Right. No, that's just the life of business ownership.
Yeah.
Hey, you're listening to the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Today's show is really kind of it's kind of multiple shows in one, because we're getting ready to pivot a little bit and talk politics. And so the last little bit of time, last half hour or so, we've been talking about building a business and how to successfully build a small business, take one from infancy stages to transition where you sell it and you walk away and you start doing something different. I have guest Chris Wooten, a good friend of mine, known him for many years. He's the founder and former CEO of The Body Shop and current State House Representative of District 69. Chris, I really appreciate you joining me today. Talk to me a little bit. So you transitioned out of business ownership, right? And so now you're into people business like it never before. Like you already in the people business.
Yeah.
And so now you work for the people like never before.
Right.
So what was it like even thinking about, hey, you know what? I'm thinking about running for office.
Well, I'll tell you the first thing that I won't ever forget is that when I decided to do this, one of the first phone calls I made was to you, Matt, and you said, get some shirts, get some clothes. You should have told me to shave. You didn't tell me to.
I didn't tell you to shave.
Get some shirts. We're going to do headshots. Get down here. We got to get your website started. If you're going to do this, we got to do it right.
Get a message.
And you
got to get a message.
And you put it together. And dude, I can't thank y'all enough, because that's the truth. That's the way it all started, was with you guys and the website and your marketing of me. So anyway, because I didn't know how to do it. I'd never been in politics. I went to the ballot and I said, I am just sick and tired of voting for the guy that I dislike the least.
Yeah.
And so it was pick and choose. Is this the best we have? Look at our stinking debate the other night. Really? How many people have you told you, is this the best we got in the best country in the world?
Everybody.
So everybody. So I got sick of watching that and seeing that. And our local representative, there's 124 seats in South Carolina. District 69 is right here in Lexington. And our representative got in some trouble and had to resign. And I said, I know going in that I'm going to make some bad decisions, and I know everybody's not going to agree with me, but you can trust me. All I got at the end of the day, if I win or lose, or if I would make a stupid decision, whatever I do, I still got to come home to Lexington. I still have 3 kids here in Lexington that I got to raise, and I'm still Chris Wooten in town. So I got my name. I've got everything I've worked for my entire life on the resting on that shoulder.
Every single day.
So whether you agree with me or not on certain issues, well, we can disagree, but I know you can trust me.
So what was the actual quote unquote, the campaign trail like? Well, I mean, endless amount of things, especially grassroots, probably. I think you did a lot of events and went to a lot of events and talked to a lot of people.
So for me to get in, obviously the seat opened up and it was a special election.
That's
so
true.
There was only a 6-week window before the primary. Well, initially there was like 7 people put their name in hat.
Right.
And then it narrowed.
Good people too.
Yeah.
I know a lot of those people.
Right. And so then they narrowed it down to 5.
Yep.
And so the 5 of us battled it out for about 6 weeks. So in 6 weeks, I knocked on somewhere between 11 and 1,200 doors. Mm-hmm. Just knocking on the door. Hey, I'm Chris Wooten. My 30-second elevator speech. I'm Chris Wooten. I'm an old Marine, former state trooper, high school football coach, small business owner, and a dad. I want to restore Christian values to the state house. I want to protect the people that take care of us, and I want to send the working man to represent the working people of the state of South Carolina.
Yeah.
That was it.
That was your deal.
That was my handshake.
That was your statement.
And if I could get it out as fast as possible before somebody's closed the door.
Right.
So,
and you probably got some of those.
Oh man, I got some great stories. One story, it was just right here, just right down the street. There was a guy. It was middle of the day, because I was still working. Right. I was still at the gym, so I would train people from 5 to 9, 5 to 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And I would leave and I would go from 10:30 or so till about 3:30, and I would knock doors. I had the list of doors that I needed to go knock. I would go knock doors, shake hands, and I'd come back and I would work from 4 to 7.
Right.
Every day. And I did that for 6 weeks.
You had to work when people were off of work.
Right. And then Saturdays, it was not uncommon to hit over 100, 125 doors on a Saturday.
On a Saturday morning, yeah.
But you don't go on Sunday. It's the South.
No,
you ain't knocking a door on Sunday in the South.
Do not
you don't call people. You don't call people during a football game. And you don't knock a door during the South.
Do not come to my house on Sunday.
So one of those was I knocked on the door and the guy comes. He had on a pair of camouflage. I'll never forget. Had a pair of camouflage shorts on, the belly, no shirt, belly's hanging out. Had a pair of Chuck Taylor tennis shoes on. Comes to the door and his belly made it to the door before he did. He opens the door and I said, "Hey, I'm Chris Wooten. What are you running for?" And I told him what I was running for. He said, "Whose seat was that?" And whose seat you trying to take? And I told him what it was so and so that had resigned. He said, "Oh, you talking about the crook? You the new crook." And he shut the door in my face. Oh my God. I went, I had nothing to say. I'm like, I have nothing for you. Yeah. So there were some good days.
Oh my gosh,
was fun stuff.
That's so funny. So how about, what's it like? What's life like at the State House? I mean, give our viewers and some listeners some insight of what's going on during session.
So what I will say is, I was ready to clean the swamp out. I was ready to drain the swamp like everybody else. Hey, we got to get rid of. What I've been pleasantly pleased with and shocked me that when I got there. Now, don't get me wrong. There's always like 10% of every team. There's some folks doing it for the wrong reason. But I got there, I found out there's a lot of really good people just wanting to serve the people of South Carolina. It's to see the folks and how much they put behind it for. The paycheck for a state representative is $10,400 a year.
Yeah.
Then they take out, they charge you for parking. So you got there's a parking fee. You take out your parking, take out your insurance. And I think my net on my check was probably $3,500, $4,000 to do that. And
for the whole year.
They say So they say it's a 3-day a week. It's half a day. We go in session on Tuesday. It's Tuesday afternoon, all day Wednesday, and Thursday morning up until noon or so. So the folks that travel to the out parts of the state, they can get back. Well, that's a lie.
Yeah, I don't
telling you that. That's
just sitting. That's just your butt in a seat.
That's right. That's in session or in committee. So the I guess the twist of that is there's a lot of issues you're not going to change. I say not going to change. There's a lot of issues that you're fighting for that we'll be fighting for, Matt, when you and I are watching it from a nursing home bed or something.
Right.
But the issues that really hit home with me or part of my campaign promise was to restore Christian values in the state house. Christian values aren't gone. There's just some people that make you want to think they're gone, but there's also a family caucus that's made up of 40 some odd members which is over a third of the General Assembly or a third of the House that are as a Christian legislative caucus.
Okay. Yeah,
and so
nice.
meeting together on issues that are family issues.
Yeah.
So when I talked about taking care of the people that take care of us, I'm talking about our teachers, our law enforcement officers, our first responders. And so I've made that one of my biggest.
You and I've talked
chores.
a lot about teachers and just the education industry, and I know you've pushed really hard on that.
Yeah, and I guess so. The most discouraging part of that is people that will see a voting record of what you voted against, and they look at you and go, and I see how it works now.
Yeah.
There was a bill that came up, a Democrat from North Charleston or Charleston area introduced smaller class sizes. He wanted smaller class sizes. If you had over 20 people in a class, you get a teacher's assistant. And if you had over, it was, the numbers were there. Yeah. And so I raised a question in committee, how do we pay for it? And he said, well, we'll just find the money. So I said, so we don't have the money? He said, where's it coming from? He said, well, we don't have it yet, but we'll find it. I'm like, well, I can't vote for that. Just giving another unfulfilled promise to our teachers. That's what's got them so discouraged now, promising them stuff that we can't give them. So guess what? Chris Wooten voted against smaller class sizes.
Right.
No, I didn't vote against smaller class sizes.
No.
I voted against the stupid idea of thinking we're going to get by with promising people stuff just for political gain.
Right.
But on my record, so I was questioned about that last week. I said, let me tell you how that went, but you don't get the chance to explain that.
No. They just see something and that's it.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Because you're exactly right. But isn't that way with everything, like in life at all, right? I mean, you make a post on, say, social media, but you don't know the circumstance around it. You see it, you kind of, theorize what you feel like it means, and all of a sudden that's what reality becomes, is their truth, right?
Right. And so with that to mind, I tried to, especially during session, every week of session, give a weekly session update, a legislative update, week 3 or week 4, whatever. And at the end of every one of these, this is how it works. At the end of every post, I put, please, if you have any concerns, comments, don't hesitate to ask. Here's my email. I'll put my cell phone number on there.
Yeah.
Here's a way to get in touch with me. And probably over the last 2 years, I've had maybe a dozen people reach out to me individually with a question about something I put down. I have never to date responded to a Facebook comment because I'm not going to. I'm not the Facebook muscle guy. I'm not going to be a big Facebook hero. If you got something that really needs attention, which people that really want to make a change, they'll call you or they'll contact you. But I've always put that on there, yet still comment after comment after comment. I'm like that, and it just drives you crazy because you're like, what are you proving? You're not.
Well, what happens is you can't win. You're in a lose-lose situation, right? Everybody loses in that case.
Yeah.
Hey, for you listeners and viewers, you're listening to The Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. We really appreciate you joining us here. You go to thebrainstormradio.com, subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Even give us a call here at 785-5656. That's area code 803-785-5656. We'll answer any questions that you have. I have a guest, Chris Wooten, here on the show with us today, founder and former CEO of The Body Shop. He built a successful business for 20 years, 19 years, and ultimately sold it to kind of someone he had been working with, a mentoring protege, if you will, for many years. It's doing a great job with the business. And now Chris is focused on the people of his district, House District 69, as a state House representative. So Chris, we're going into tomorrow, just coincidentally happens to be the big election day, 2020 presidential race. Every time there's a presidential race, it just seems like, and I know what it is, but I'll ask you as well, because I'm in the marketing advertising industry. The divisiveness, just perceptionally, is higher than it's ever been. Of course, 4 years ago, we said the same thing.
Right.
4 years ago, before that, we said the same thing. And so if you look at what's really changed, what's really changed is the artificial intelligence of how technology and digital world learns your behaviors.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I don't know if anybody has seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix.
I was about to mention that.
Have you watched it?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so that's where it's at. You want to know why it's more divisive today than ever before? It's because everything that you look at today is based on what you have looked at before. Right. And what you've liked and what you've commented on. So what happens is if you're a Republican and all you comment on and all you like are right wing or Republican based things, then that's all you're going to see. So you're wondering, why aren't my friends on the left? Why aren't my Democratic friends? Why don't they think like me?
Right. Because you're thinking everybody thinks just like
you.
They
don't see anything you're seeing.
Of that. Right.
And vice versa.
Right.
And so that's what happens. We are divided because of that.
It drives such a divisive thing. Matt, I'll tell you, and like I said, we've been friends for 20 years, and you know me, I will tell you, we would start talking about campaigning and start talking about things. When I went into my race, there were 5 people in my race, and they asked me what separated me from the other 4 people at the table. I said, I know some of these people. I don't know all of them. I don't know what they've done, but I'll tell you what I've done. And over the last 20 years, or prior to, from the Marine Corps to Highway Patrol to my own business in town, I started serving folks when I was 19. I started serving and realized the importance of serving and how much better it makes me feel when I'm serving. That's why that's what, not from a boastful side, that's what people know Chris Wooten for. Yeah. Is I have been serving.
Right.
And I made the mistake in my last race. And it's a long story, but one of my opponents said something bad about me, and I had bound and determined, I had declared I would not go negative. I would not, but they said something negative about me, and it got under my skin, and the devil ate me alive. So I bounced back. I popped back, and I want to say one of the biggest mistakes I ever made, because my 13-year-old daughter at the time said, Dad, why don't you do that? And I said, they did this and they did this. And I was trying to explain
it because they did.
I did it like, God, that woman you gave me, that kind of same thing. You started blaming somebody.
Right.
And she said, I get it, Dad, but it's just not you. And I went, boom, I'll never do it again.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I won't fight back, but I realized, and that just goes to your point of what we're trying, the divisiveness in a society that continues to grow and grow and grow. We've made amends and we're friends since that point for the folks that are in the race with me. But when you talk about something for advice not to do, don't do it. Because you know why? At the end of the day, I'm still Chris Wooten in Lexington. I'm still at the grocery store, standing beside you with a cart full of stuff. And I got to look you in the eye.
Still go to the schools here. You're still trying to support the people here.
And I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you are. I don't care where you live. I don't care what part of town you're in. You still, all you got at the end of the day is I want somebody to stand beside me. I actually performed a funeral yesterday up in Greenville for a real high school friend of mine. And I said at the casket, at the end of the day, I just want somebody to stand beside my casket and say, Chris Wooten was a good man.
Yeah.
And that's it. If I lose the next election, if I lose this one, we're in trouble because I'm not opposed. So if I lose this one, I'm packing my bags. I'm going.
Yeah. That would be tough. That would be a tough loss.
If I lose the next one, whatever, I'm still Chris Wooten at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what people got to remember.
So as people get up early in the morning to go to the polls, I know South Carolina has been everybody's been allowed to vote absentee, I guess, right? So everybody, you can vote anytime you want. But there's still a lot of people that is going to wait until tomorrow or has waited until tomorrow.
I actually like going on election day.
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna wait. You're gonna wait in line anyway.
Me and my whole family is going tomorrow. We're going on election day, and we're going to cast our ballots. And I'm excited. I'm optimistic. Yeah. I'm optimistic that my candidate's going to win, obviously, for president, and I'm optimistic that all of my candidates will win. But even if they don't, I mean, obviously, I'm voting for policy.
Right.
I'm voting for the policies that have the greatest effect on me, on my business, on my clients' businesses, and on my team here. That's what I vote for. That's
Right.
I don't know, when you give suggestions or recommendations on who to vote for, what to vote for. What do you recommend?
I try
Is it
to
the people? Is it the party? Is it the policies? Is how they believe? I mean,
it depends on what the race is, but when, if somebody asks me about this presidential race,
right.
My answer is I'm not a Trumper.
Yeah.
However, I'm a conservative Republican. I like what President Trump has done as far
Right.
as the economy goes. If he were living in my neighborhood, I don't know that he and I would hang out. I don't know.
Right.
If he wouldn't tweet and talk so much, maybe that would, but I don't know. But personally, I don't consider myself a Trumper. However, I do know the way I feel is that I'll tell people what that candidate has done or what the other one that I know hasn't done,
Right.
and what I feel. Because I feel right now that if we were to lose the presidency and we keep the Senate, then things are going to stay about the same.
Right.
If we lose the presidency and the Senate, Puerto Rico is going to become a state, Washington, D.C. is going to become a state, and the liberal, they're going to take over, and the conservative values that we know will never know again. That's my point. But that's from the conservative Republican side of it.
Right.
And, I know people vote different. People are afraid that, of different big topics that are on the table, but it takes a lot more to really change something that's all, people are talking about different topics that have already been changed, and we won't get into that today, but it takes a lot to change a policy that's already been taking effect.
Yeah.
So I would like to see our country continue to move forward. I don't want to see it move back. I don't want to see, but unfortunately, whoever wins tomorrow, we probably not going to know for a few days, if that. And unfortunately, I think that it's sad as it is, we're gonna see some probably rioting and things.
Yeah,
in the street
either way,
and I hope that, I will say that from South Carolina standpoint, I have spoken personally with some folks at higher up and in law enforcement, that I ask, well, what happens if this happens? Are we ready for that? And South Carolina's ready. South Carolina's not going to put up with it.
Yeah.
So
well, I know one
safe.
thing. There's only one thing that I'd like for there definitely to be change in, which is I definitely would like more regulations into big tech.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
I
that
agree.
absolutely has to happen. With Facebook and all the social media platforms, choosing and deciding and even writing artificial intelligence that ultimately does control. It's not will or might. It does control people's thought process. And this is coming from someone who's in marketing and advertising. I make a living at it.
Right.
But someone asked me, Chris, someone said, well, you're in that business. If they did away, let's just pretend for a minute, which would never happen. Let's pretend for a minute that platforms such as Twitter and Facebook and all that went away, and you have a lot of digital marketing clients. No, I'm in the marketing and advertising business. I'm in the marketing industry. That just means that we reach the right people with the right message using the right vehicle. If that vehicle doesn't exist, we'll just use a different one.
Right.
It didn't always exist. I know it's hard for people to remember when it didn't exist, but guess what? Marketing and advertising still existed and still existed very well.
Right.
Right. So it doesn't bother me what types of tactics exist or doesn't exist. We're going to use the right message, targeting the right people, using the right vehicles to message people. But there has to be more regulations in that, because they are controlling the way people think. And I personally believe that a lot of divisiveness is coming from that.
I agree 100%. We've learned a lot, and we're good with a lot of technology that has come along from all this with the COVID stuff, with Zoom meetings and online learning and all the things that we've been blessed enough to be able to take advantage of. But the divisiveness is killing me. That's the reason I started my little fresh air Facebook post, just to try to create some positivity back into. You got to leave it better than you found it. Right. We're not doing a good job at that right now.
Chris, man, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. You've been with us here on the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike. Go to thebrainstormradio.com, check out our podcast, check out our YouTube channel, and check out Chris Rutan on Facebook?
Facebook. Just Chris Wooten on Facebook, and then my website is votechriswooten.com.
VoteChrisWooten.com, man. All right. Excellent. Chris, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
And your advice was, Chris, if you're going to do a website, you got to keep it simple. You got simple friends.
Get a good message.
VoteChrisWooten.com. Thanks, man.
Thanks for joining us today on the Brainstorm with Matt and Mike.